The following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Hi, my name is Leo Connors, and welcome to The Ring and All Other Sports. Tonight, I got a very special guest, retired professional wrestler, Andy Jaxx.
Long retired, Leo.
Long retired, that's true.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Now, you told me you had 7 years you were in the business.
7 years, I went as hard as I could.
Right.
And that was one of the reasons I was able to walk away somewhat at peace with it.
Right.
Not fully at peace. That wouldn't come until 5 years after that, but
right.
We can get into that a little bit.
All right. Listen, we get a lot of fan questions, so let's just bang them up. Evan Hatch wants to know, ask about his love for the double C, Chris Candido.
I love Chris Candido. I mean, I'm out of high school in '94, so now I'm working a security job, going to school. I'm buying the magazines like crazy. Here's black and white photos of a guy about 5'9",
Yep.
Not a ripped solid 220. This wasn't 2000 ECW Chris Candido. This was 1995 Chris Candido. He was in Memphis, I believe, at the time, working with Balls Mahoney as Boo Bradley, perhaps.
Oh, yeah, for Smoky Mountain.
With the dog food matches.
Right.
I really liked him because we had a similar build. And he, the Dynamite Kid showed you that it was possible for smaller guys to get ahead in the business. But I knew I wasn't the Dynamite Kid.
Right.
And I wasn't Chris Candido either. But seeing him kind of made it possible, and I followed his career really closely. And my last year in the business, our paths crossed. We shared locker rooms. It was a highlight for me.
That's awesome, because everybody that ever talks about Chris Candido always says how great of a guy he was, too. You know?
And it's worth mentioning, there's some photos out there with me with some bleach blonde hair. You kind of had the body Donna look going on. That wasn't an accident.
Right.
Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery.
For sure.
Okay, so that's what was going on there. And I'm at a show one time, and it was one of my first or second shows. I think it was in Clinton. And a fan asked me if I was his brother. And I said no. And Kyle Storm, guy that helped me a lot, took me aside and said, "Hey, Jaxx, come here. If a fan's going to give you a gimmick, you take it. You run with it. Next time, tell me you're half brother, whatever." Right. So, it started with just his build. But then I got into his work, and I got to know the person. And who can you find that's going to say something bad about Chris Candido?
Right. There isn't. It's incredible. Awesome. My buddy Dan Bollier, who also has a show called Let Freedom Ring up in Merrimack, thoughts on Eric Bischoff being inducted in the Hall of Fame?
Well, he moved needles. I mean, he was, I don't think he'd be there unless Vince brought him back to do the dumpster finish and all that.
Right.
Vince brought him back and he humbled him, but Eric didn't need to do that. Obviously, he loved to perform. He got paid when he left the business. I think he cashed out. He had some serious Time Warner stock. So it doesn't surprise me that the WWF in his relation, WWE, eased up enough to put him in the Hall of Fame. And what is the Hall of Fame? It's not a brick or mortar building right now. It's an idea.
Right.
And when you think of everybody that brought ideas and made an impact in the business, you got to mention Eric Bischoff. So why not?
Nice. I agree with that 100%. Ryan Drew, any Mike Sparta stories?
H2O?
Yep.
Yeah, I got a Sparta story.
All
it ties in with the Backseat Boys.
Excellent. This is going to get that's even better.
So we had a couple matches with the Backseat Boys. Took a couple rides with them. They offered us their room somewhere in Pennsylvania. It had to be outside of Philly or else they would have went home. It was just far enough, whatever, they let us stay. And we didn't work yet. We made friends. Fast forward about a year and a half later, we work a Sunday spot for Mike Sparta at a bar and grills, not that far from Fitchburg State College where I went to school. We had like a 20-minute match. Anything you do with the backseats is magic. I mean, I loved working with those guys. Whatever we were supposed to get paid was seriously light. I mean, maybe it was 100. I don't remember.
Right.
But it was bad. But Sparta had Bill Alfonso as our referee. Another reason why a tag team match with the backseats is going to be magic.
Right.
What you can't mess that up. So we're in the back and we're waiting for our payoff, and it was light, man. It was light. Like, I'm worried. I think these guys are going to have enough to put gas in their tank to get home. So we gave us, their envelopes, but to sweeten that blow, Sparta brings Fonzie back with us, and he says, "Use guys, forget about all that. It's a Sunday, blah, blah, blah. This is gravy. You had your weekend. If Dr. Tom Pritchard was here today, yous all would have contracts right on the spot." And guess that was supposed to soften the blow.
Right.
We only had to ride about 10 minutes back to Fitchburg, but those guys had to go to Pennsylvania, probably pretty pissed off, I would guess.
Yeah.
So,
Wow, that's a great story. Scott King.
Oh, Sky King.
Yes. I don't have a question, just a comment on what a respectful, good guy Andy is. Have a great time. Scott's a great guy.
Thank you, Scott.
All right. Robert Fuller Jr., and unfortunately, it's not the Tennessee stud. This guy's a good guy, but it's not the Tennessee
I know
stud.
who he is.
You know
He's
him?
Rob Roberts.
All right.
Job Roberts. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
that's what he says. Yeah, buddy. Any Rob Roberts matches you like?
I can't see Rob Roberts. I liked his last match because it was his last match. Honestly, he was one of those guys, you can't not look at him and smile.
Right.
Just a pleasure to have around. I'm glad that he still remembers me
Nice.
So,
All right.
Good
Knuckles
kid.
Nelson. Love this guy. That's what he said.
we have a relationship that's still evolving.
Nice.
And we didn't really cross paths in the ring. Same thing with a lot of older guys. I didn't cross paths in the ring with Sky King. I didn't cross paths in the ring with Maverick, but I see the success that they're having in their lives as adult men. And to say they're role models to me is an understatement.
Right.
All the respect in the world for the way those guys have moved on with their life after wrestling
Right.
in a way a lot of other fellas just can't leave behind.
Right.
And again, respected by everybody. And I don't need to share a locker room. Social media, you get out of it what you put into it. Some people, everybody cries on there, it's politics. I filter that out and I look for the good stuff,
Yep.
And there's good interactions to be had. So he's definitely one of those guys, not super close with him during my active time. He wrote a book.
Yeah.
And I loved it.
I'm halfway through it. It's really good.
Yeah, it is. And I'm looking forward to see what the rest of his life brings.
Right.
And I feel like he'd be there for me if I ever needed him. And I'm really fortunate to have him in my life, even at that level. So.
Right. And I think you're right, because he definitely is that type of guy that would help you out. No doubt. All right. Matt Storm.
Matt Storm.
Describe your first finishing maneuver, the Portuguese Brillo pad.
All right, that's kind of a gag.
Yeah,
I'll
I'm
answer
sure it
that one
was.
quick. I love Matt Storm. He was my first real match. Trained
was
me
he?
a lot. Yeah. He was absolutely my first real bell-to-bell match. I was in a battle royal before.
Right.
Portuguese Brillo pad. Let's just say in high school, I was a pretty decent wrestler. There's a lot of downtime. Wrestling practices can be pretty boring.
Right.
I didn't shave everywhere, so there's an area on my body, it might be on this chair now, that would get a little sweaty, a little hairy. And in the 90s, you could get away with a little hazing.
Right.
So maybe somebody got held down. The stink face, but with a much stinkier face. We'll
Right,
just put
right.
it like that. That's the Portuguese Brillo pad. Thanks, Matt.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. All right, Joshua Cripps. No questions, just an outstanding person of great character, plus only person to ever beat me in arm wrestling.
Josh Cripps is the man. He was working that security job with me at Plymouth Plantation. A lot of nights where it was just the two of us. I'm doing homework. Once the homework was done, the wrestling magazines would come out. Just a guy that I spent a lot of time with, have a lot of respect with. It has nothing to do with the wrestling business, but anytime the name Joshua Cripps comes out of my mouth, I'm glad to say it. I love him. He's been through a lot lately. Another person that knows how to keep taking hits in life and move forward.
Nice.
And before I forget, I want to say Derek Nally, Reverend Redemption.
Yep.
Another guy that I respect the heck out of him. I might rib him a lot. It's like a friend of mine, Chris Hamrick, says, if I don't like you, I won't even rib you. I won't mess with you.
Right.
But you want to talk about somebody that moves forward in life with grace when they have adversity thrown at them? Joshua Cripps, Derek Nally, Reverend Redemption, whatever you want to call them. These are all the characters of men that I look up to.
Right. Nice.
Yeah.
Hey, I think Derek's coming up in this too after. I think
That'll be a good one.
All right, Kyle Storm.
Kyle.
All he said was where to start.
Hi, Kyle.
Let's see. Brickhouse Baker. The night you sat me down in the locker room and called a match with me and wrote it all down. It ended up being a great match. Plymouth Memorial Hall was our greatest. What a pop. Slaps leg.
Slaps leg. You know, he really did his job as a trainer because I was looking at Brandon Webb today, a guy, again, not a lot of interaction with in the locker room. I was kind of finishing up in Yankee when he was coming in. I saw his post today. You look incredible, brother.
Does look good today.
He looks
I
good.
saw that, yeah. But the face paint on,
he said
really
he's
good.
been in the business for 20 years.
Yeah.
Now I had the opposite problem. I had the physique before I had the knowledge, and I kind of got rushed. I could have used another year.
Yep.
You know, Joe Eugenio owned Yankee at the time where I broke in, and he really pushed Baker to get me ready, to get Lucian Bagwell ready.
Yep.
You know, because we looked ready, but we weren't. So Baker did his job in that I could do everything and not be dangerous to other people, keep myself safe.
Right.
But I didn't have the psychology down. I couldn't call a match on the fly. That was never me. That would come later after a tour. So we went to Plymouth and I wanted to have a good show. And I sat him down and he probably rolled his eyes a million times as I went over everything. But in the end, it ended up being not just a highlight in wrestling, but a highlight in my life, going to my hometown with Mike wrestling Brickhouse Baker. And it definitely got the loudest pop of the night. I mean, everybody there was probably related to me or my second cousin. So it
nothing wrong with that.
But a lot of it. He improvised some too. Don't let Mike fool you. He had the spot. He put me in a chair just like you're sitting. He went up. He threw a missile drop kick that Owen Hart would say, "Oh crap, that's a missile drop kick."
No
kidding. And I fell back and I sold it. So yeah, we improvised a little bit too. But you're right about that, Brickhouse. Too much writing it down.
Another guy that's a real good guy. Got to get on the show soon. Shea Kuchu.
Okay.
From watching shows in New Bedford and VHS tapes from Davey when playing with my action figures, Andy Jaxx was always a name that stuck out to me. If I'm wrong, let me know, but a blue singlet looked like lightning always comes to mind for some reason.
I wore a blue singlet with white lightning, and somebody that I'm friends with on social media, happy to be, kind of the same with me. I don't know if Shea walked by me right now, I might not know who it is. I'm guessing that's some relation to Davey.
Yeah, they're cousins. I'm pretty sure they're cousins or Davey's his uncle, something like that. But they're definitely related.
Well, Davey's got a great mind for the business, so Shea's got a bright future. You know,
nice. Yeah, he used to team up. I don't know if you remember, just recently, not that long ago, I should say, the heavy hitters. He teamed up with this big guy, Frank Champion. They were an excellent tag team, and Frank stepped away from the business.
Well, it's in Shea's blood, and I wish him all the luck in the world. Thanks for remembering me.
He's really good. And here's our Reverend Redemption right here. Derek, you can talk about facing me and Tony the Maniac, laughing out loud. Those matches were always weird because of Tony's antics in and out of the ring.
Tony, I'll start crying if I think about Tony. Tony the Maniac, Tony Ferreira, kind of a booker, kind of a sort of a Pat Patterson for Joe Eugenio. Great mind for the business. And then when you needed a hand, he'd put on scrubs like he escaped from your local psychiatric hospital. And it kind of made sense for the gimmick. I mean, he would do things like just cluck like a chicken in the middle of the match. Make, blind tag Derek for no reason, purposely mess up spots when it was time to, I spent a lot of my time in tag teams. It's kind of my thing. I'd say 70% of my matches were tag team matches.
I love tag team wrestling.
Great. I do. Me too. To me, it's a whole different thing.
Absolutely.
So Tony was famous for, bad guy, heat, finally make the hot tag, bump feed. Well, Tony you'd hit him, he'd take that first bump and then just lay there stiff as a log and kill all the heat.
Right.
You could get away with stuff like this back then because it wasn't going to be on YouTube the next day.
Right.
So you could do stuff to entertain the guys in the back, the guys in the ring. Two of my partners hiding the laugh. It's funny.
The referee's laughing.
So Derek was with us for those memories.
Nice.
And it was hilarious.
I'd like to get him on the show too, Derek. So if you're watching, please I definitely love to
please,
get
Derek,
you on the show.
please.
Albert Sousa Jr. He says, yes, sir. Great dude, yet a better brother. Coming into the business, Andy was at the top of the food chain, always full of energy and life. Always a good time in the locker room, laughing out loud. I was on the card when Andy and Brickhouse tore the roof off in Plymouth Memorial Hall, and Beefcake was the main event. No pop, just beer. What, beer thrown at him or something?
Beefcake kind of went through a miserable period of his life when he was
Yeah.
on the Indies for a little
Yeah.
bit. I mean, I think anybody that's been around would agree. And this was during that period.
All right. And he was great on both sides of the curtain. So just giving you a compliment.
Well, I had more fun on the other. I had just as much or more fun on that side than that side. And you go out of your way
Right.
to do that, you know.
Yeah.
If there were showers, I'd purposely grab the smallest one with, moths look like they been eating at it for a couple weeks. And, that was my towel.
Right.
But this is a family show. So I had a little trick I like to do called the tuck. I'd pretend like I'm missing something. Maybe I'd walk around and ask anybody if they've seen it. So that's probably what he's talking about.
Right.
Hey, he was a great kid. He was really young, cutting his teeth when I was, again, trying to branch out.
Right.
And speedy guy, high flyer, right? I believe he was with the Hot Boys, if I have the right. Yeah. Thank you, Albert. Very compliment. Thank you.
Excellent. Now, David Baker, who was more fun to tag with, Daniels or Mark? Also, you broke Pop's nose once. Thank you. Laugh at my ass off.
Does that nose have any cartilage?
Well, I don't think it does.
Slaps leg, right? So, who was more fun? Well, the thing with Chambers was everything was a first.
Oh,
So
yeah.
that's fun. I mean,
Right.
everything was a first. Your dreams are coming true.
Right.
Really, that's all I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Since I was a little kid. But, Daniels was my best friend in real life, and I had a few years in the business, and he was young, and I had a plan to get ahead, and I said, let's give it our best try. And he went along with it. He picked a college that was in Pennsylvania. We moved there together. So there was nothing wrong with teaming with Mark Chambers, and he was great. Mark
Right.
Dagnall's a great guy, but Kurt Daniels is one of my best friends to this day. So
Okay.
and the gimmick I was doing was truer to myself
Right.
than it was with, I didn't know what I was yet. Who does when they first start?
yeah, exactly.
So by then I had it figured out, the Tonga kid on my first European tour, I was going back and forth where I would wear a singlet one night and have a match as a cocky jock type guy. And then I would alternate and I'd wear some surfer shorts. There's some matches on YouTube of me trying to do a surfer heel gimmick. I don't know how to swim in real life. But if you went to high school with me, you'd say, oh, I know him. He was that loudmouth jock football player. So I finished the match and I'm in those surf shorts and I came back and, Tonga kid, and this is not a knock on him, but he's knows everything about the business.
Yeah.
But he'd drag me with him to make sure he was going to the men's room, the women's room he couldn't read. I'd order from him off the menu.
Yeah.
Right. But when he came to he says to me, hey, that was the Drizzle and S's. He goes, you're not, do you even know how to swim? Is there even an ocean in Boston? I said, yeah, that there is, but I don't surf. And he goes, well, that singlet's you. This is the Drizzle and S's. Just be your normal self and deal with it. You're an a-hole, get used to it. And I embraced that.
Yeah.
And that's kind of was one of the nuggets, one of the genesis of Kappa Tappa Kega. So,
All right.
yeah.
Well, after the fan questions, I want to talk to you a lot about that too. All right, Matt West is back.
Hey.
What did you think when you saw Chambers accidentally bust Kyle's head wide open? So I can imagine that must have been a lot of blood.
Yeah, it was a lot of blood. You could see Kyle's skull. I was concerned immediately for Kyle because he's a friend first and foremost.
And he's a tough bastard.
Yeah, he's a tough bastard,
Yeah.
Kyle and I, we get along perfectly. And I said it one time, I said, because, he has friction with people. It's not something he goes out of his way to avoid.
Right.
Kyle's just the kind of a guy where he comes into a room and his unit's already been there for 10 minutes. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
And that doesn't bother me. I like that.
Yep.
Especially if I'm trusting a guy to not break my neck. I like a guy with a little confidence.
Right.
But I was always cool with the Storm. So there was a little tension with, don't forget, Mark Chambers is a good 10, 12 years older than us at this point. So he's in his 30s. We're in our 20s.
Yeah.
And there was an incident where a fan had a sign that said, Andy Jaxx must die. Now, even at that early portion of my career, I knew any heat was good heat. It didn't matter that I was the face. Right. Mark ripped it up and he was really hot. Now, I love Mark for looking out for me like that.
Yeah.
But at the same hand, now we're in the back, and Kyle says, "Hey, why'd you do that to that fan? Not everyone's going to like you every place you go. You're not going to be, the sunny day signing Sean Golden Boy." And those two needed to be separated. And so there was that underlying tension.
Yep.
But I'll say this, though. Kyle called the spot. He said, "I want you to hit me with a dog bowl, stainless steel dog bowl." Kyle doesn't like it when you do anything soft.
Right.
It was a legit accident.
Yep.
I think if I could go back and do that night over again, and Kyle insisted on getting hit and you couldn't talk Kyle out of something. So he was getting hit with that dog bowl.
Yeah, no matter what.
I kind of wish I had swung it, just because if that had happened, I think that Kyle and Matt could have accepted a mistake coming from me easier than Mark, where there was the tension. And Mark didn't really have a hand in training me. The Kyle Storms did. I break it down like this. Brickhouse Baker, 50% of my training with Storms, 35, Davey Cash, about another 15%.
Nice.
I was at that, Joe Eugenio had a gym in New Bedford, and I was there 3-4 times a week for about 4 or 5 months before I was on working shows. I probably could have used a year. Looking back.
But it's always good to train under different people. Jose Perez was just here, and he was talking about that a couple weeks ago, how it's great. And a lot of kids nowadays are doing that.
Yeah. He really deserves a hand in. I learned on the fly.
Right.
A lot of matches with Jose Perez.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I'm sure I made a lot of boob mistakes.
Right.
But he had a way of talking to me where everything was a teachable moment.
Right.
So that's a trainer to me.
Yeah, definitely.
So
he's trained a lot of guys.
And I love his wife, his family.
His family's fantastic.
That's where I feel old, And again, social media is what you get out of it. I like seeing my friends' families grow.
Yeah.
One day he says, "Hey, can you say hi to my daughter? It's her 21st birthday." And I said, "What? Who? What?" And I did the math in my head, and I said, "By God, it is her 21st birthday."
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's getting married now.
Good for her.
Yeah.
Beautiful girl.
Yes, she is.
Good looking family altogether.
Awesome. I've known them. Let's put it this way. My youngest is almost 20 years old, and I've known them before she was born. So just great people. All right, George Carroll. We're gonna do the question you wanted to ask. All right.
Yeah.
Have you ever found any videos or pictures of Dave Donovan on the side of a building when he sold out Guam? Dave, I'm sorry, but it's my show. I had to ask the question.
Dave, I'm sorry. I ran my mouth on social media. I saw you putting yourself over about that you were on billboards in Malaysia, Guam. Who hasn't exaggerated? Maybe you were. I wasn't there. All that seemed petty the day Nick Steele died.
Right.
And I had started a wrestling group to begin 2020, and the year was just a circling toilet bowl, I think, for everybody.
Right.
But that Dave, bunch of guys kind of got on Dave at the same time, and it just seems so petty.
Right.
The truth is if Dave was gone tomorrow, I'd feel really, really bad.
Right.
And he's not a bad guy at all, and I was wrong. And Georgie Carroll, good question, brother. The thing I like about Georgie Carroll, I want to get this in real quick.
Yeah.
I didn't meet Georgie Carroll until I was done.
Really?
Yeah, and I had no aspirations to come back.
Right.
So Georgie has a lot of stroke,
Yes, he does.
He must not worry, but he must wonder sometimes, is this guy being nice to me because he thinks I can do something for him?
Right. No, I hear you.
When I met Georgie, that's not why I'm friends with him to this day. I never wanted anything out of Georgie other than his friendship and for him to ask me stupid questions on talk shows. So thanks. I appreciate that, Georgie.
Georgie's a great guy. All right, here's another one. Here's a couple more. Has anyone seen Indy the Bump Dog? I don't have no idea. What do you know? No.
Kayfabe, Georgie.
All right, George. Maybe you can fill me in later. Any funny and I wrote Andy Jaxx, but I know for a fact he says any funny Danny Jaxx. I wrote your name, but I know for a fact it's Danny Jaxx. Any funny Danny Jaxx stories? Kurt Daniels, Danny Jaxx.
It's like a job interview I had one time when I used to work at a psychiatric hospital, and they asked me, name a time when you've used verbal de-escalation to chill out a situation. There's just so many that not one sticks out. I mean, we're bored. We're living in Philadelphia with Chi Cruz outside of Philadelphia, and we bought some deli meat, and we got the wrong meat. We ended up getting bologna. So we're just driving around a grocery market parking lot and drive-by meeting, Danny's throwing slices of bologna at cars. I mean, just the stupid things you do to entertain yourself, in between weekends is...
That's where I seen you wrestle most of the time. When I saw you, you were teaming with Danny.
Okay.
How many guys did you tag team with Kappa Tappa Kega?
Kappa Tappa Kega was always just Danny and I.
Just okay.
Yeah, there was Mark and I, Mark Chambers and I for about a year. I think we called ourselves Generation Flex for about 5 minutes, and then D Generation X came out, and you don't want to be ripping people off like that. So we were just young.
Just your names?
Yeah, just our names. But about a year of just he and I.
Yeah.
And then Lucian Bagwell, just he and I. We usually got to work with the Power Company.
Nice.
Between the Power Company and the Storm Brothers, I can't tell you how many different matches I've had with them, with the 3 different partners I had. Right. But by far and most, the most matches I've had and the most fun in the last couple years was with he was Kurt Daniels he was the Hoochie player.
Okay, yes.
In the Virgin Slayer.
Yep.
Yeah. So it was a fictional fraternity. I thought up. He was last year of high school, trying to pick out colleges, and he looked good. He looked.
Dude, he was jacked. No pun intended, but he was jacked.
He was, and he also just had a really cool personality.
Right.
So we got to riding together, and then I took him back. I had a place in Dorchester with a couple other guys, non-wrestling guys I was living with. I was like, hey, why don't you crash here with us tonight? And went to Blockbuster. Rented Revenge of the Nerds. He'd never seen it. I think if you grew up at all in the 80s, or if you're alive in the 80s, you saw that.
Yeah, of course.
He loved the movie. And I was like, okay. I think you're kind of like Stan Gable. You're kind of like that cocky quarterback that doesn't have to be that loud. And, I think if I pump up a little bit, I can be not that bright, be like Ogre. And between the two of us and a beer funnel and cheap college beer, and, chugging the beer and blowing foam.
Yeah, and panties around your necks.
Yep.
Women's panties, guys.
There's a shoot too. We didn't go to Marshall's and buy a 5-pack. Those,
right?
If you open somebody up, what do they call that? The hard way?
Yes.
Yeah, those were earned the hard way.
That's awesome. That is awesome. All right, I think George got one more. You toured the world with Yoko.
I did.
Any funny personal stories you could share about spending time with Yokozuna?
He was always funny, man. Those hotels and inns, and some of them were castles in Scotland that they turned into hotels. I'd follow him because I was carrying his bags, and guys at home kind of ribbed me about that. It was an honor to carry that guy's bags, man. I'd do it again in a second. He looked out for me too, in ways that I didn't know at the time. But funny, his hips would kind of be scraping the walls. He'd say, "Damn, these hallways are getting smaller from the last tour I was here." I mean. He was just always funny, but also just a great human being. We a lot of places wouldn't let us pay for dinner when we ate there. He's really popular in the United Kingdom
I believe
before he passed. So the chef would come out and ask how everything is, and Yoko would, guys, put the chef over, and I don't think the chef knew what it meant, but he was right. That's what we should have been doing,
right? No doubt. And you saw the documentary, right? Have you seen that?
I did.
That was incredible.
Another thing I love about social media is Yoko was such a family man that on the bus we traveled on, and a lot of guys did this, he would open up pictures of his children. Nice. And if we were playing cards at these tables, they faced each other in the back of the bus. He that was his setup. He'd open pictures up of his children. I believe it's Lanny and Justin. It could be, he goes by Buster, but they were teeny tiny kids,
Right.
I found them as adults and said, I showed them all these pictures of their father and I. And that's really cool, man. Yeah. And they both seem to be doing well. And that whole family's great. I work in a courthouse, and there's a lot of people with political opinions.
Right.
And Donald Trump lost the election. And I said, hey, as soon as The Rock wants to take a pay cut, that's going to be your president.
Right.
And one of the probation officers said, no, you have to. I said, well, what has Donald Trump done that, if we're having celebrities be presidents now,
The Rock's a better choice.
Yeah, I said, listen, I don't know The Rock, but I know the family. And anybody that's known as Simone, Ref Hansen will tell you this, Sean Wiggins, what up? The respect they have for the elders, and they're doing the right thing. We're putting over the chef. I said to the probation officer, I don't know The Rock, but I do know the family, and I can tell you right now, they're going. If The Rock would be president, diplomacy. You can't not
Right.
like the guy, even if
Right.
he's going against you.
Right.
You know, I just think that he's, in a lot of ways, he's what the country, I don't want to get too far off, because I'm not really a political guy.
Yeah, I mean, nah, I'm
but
not
I don't
either,
like when
but-
people laugh at me when I tell them that The Rock would be a good president,
Right.
because The Rock would be.
No doubt.
What's he been bad at in life?
Right.
He didn't start at Miami. Yeah, he had a guy named Warren Sapp ahead of him.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
Like it was like me. Come on, give me a break. The Rock has done so much. And do you see his show? Have you seen his new show?
Young Rock, yeah.
I love it how they started with that.
Yes.
He's going to be president.
Well-
and I hope he runs.
I couldn't believe that, because he's planting a seed there. That's not an accident.
Right. Well, I had heard that he really was thinking about it.
He should.
Yeah.
You know?
And they asked him, why wouldn't you do it now? He goes, I want to do it when I'm done acting. This is his next point in life, is what he said. So we'll see.
We'll see. But it's not out of left field. It's not craziness. That could happen.
Right. Well, you just brought up a mutual friend,
Okay.
Sean Wiggins, Ref Hansen.
Yes.
I went to his wedding. Most incredible time, dude. Open bar all night. All night, right? Go over to the bar. And there was a bar right next to our table. Doring's there and a bunch of other people that, friends with Sean. I go there, I want to get a shot and a beer. Oh, I can't do shots. I said, all right, well, give me a glass of tequila. They gave me a glass, but wouldn't give me a shot. Open bar all night long. And it was incredible.
Well, that sounds like every night in Europe with Yoko.
Oh, I bet, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, your money was no good there. Let's get back to Sean Wiggins. Again, somebody I wish I had more time with, but such a Boston sports fan, especially the Red Sox. We really bonded over our love for the Red Sox. So during the 13 World Series, I started group text before the first pitch of, just a ton of wrestling fans. Some of them don't even know each other.
Right.
And we're just all adding, and through I don't know how many games that series went, but when Victorino hit that home run. Yeah, it was awesome. So he's somebody that we're pretty close to. If I need to call him for advice, I reffed one night on a House of Brick show.
Did you really?
Yeah, and it dawned on me that Friday that I had no idea how to be a ref.
Right.
So I figured who better to call?
Right.
And he gave me some pointers, and I was passable.
Nice, nice. So, yeah, Sean's a great guy.
I love him.
All right, listen, you broke in with Yankee.
Yep.
You held every title within 2 years.
Yes.
Correct?
Correct.
Tell me some good Yankee stories about when you first started wrestling for him.
Let's see. There were guys around like Derek Nally, Big Dog Wilson. He had a few gimmicks. He was very versatile
Baker.
and underrated performer. He can do the hardcore stuff. He can do comedy. I'll be forever grateful for him because that was the first heavyweight title win. And I don't know how this is going to sound or look to guys in the business. I don't mean to. Is it in bad taste to be proud that you have a belt? What does it really say? To me, it was cool. I was 21 years old,
of course
22
it's
years
cool.
old, and for him to do the honors for me like that, you don't forget something like that.
Right.
So I broke in with Yankee, did the tag team thing. Tony the Maniac planted the seed in my head, why don't you do a heel turn with Chambers? That would be that, and that kind of propelled my singles career. We lost a match, and the usual tag team breakup. One guy says to the other, they push each other. You think you're better than me?
Right.
Makes you think you're better than me, and then I just lost it, and it seemed like there was a rocket on me from there. I mean, I was a heel champion. Got to take the belt back to Fitchburg State College. I was playing football there at the time, so the coaches would have me come off the bus first with wearing the belt, and good time in my life. Yankee is top rope now, and Steve Ricard is the owner.
Right.
Steve Ricard probably owe the guy $50. I mean, he'd fill a tape up for you, and then you'd buy him from him.
Right.
But what an acumen for business for him to be around and is relevant, and that's not easy reins to take in this day and age to keep a successful wrestling promotion, but he's done it, and he's done it ethically.
Yeah.
Nope, you won't hear any Steve Ricard stiff me stories.
Yeah, I've never heard anything bad said about
even
him.
as delicate and as a tough spot as he was in the Scott Hall incident.
Yeah.
My respect for him only grew more, and he answered I asked him about it one night, and this is something that when I really thought about it. When I have to make tough decisions in my life too, he said to me, all that really mattered is what my mom and dad would have thought.
Right.
You know, and I was lucky enough to have some pretty good parents.
Right.
So I go back and I think, my job, sometimes you have to put your hands on people. Sometimes stuff happens. And,
Absolutely.
did I try to de-escalate things? Did I use the least force possible? Did I have no malice? Right. And then I just think, would your mother and dad be okay with what you just did? And then I'm okay.
Right.
So that came from Steve Ricard. He's a hell of a guy.
Nice. Okay. You said, how did you get on the UK tours that you did with Yoko, and how did you get on them?
I don't know. Joe Eugenio was the hookup.
Okay.
He took very good care of me my first couple years. I was dependable too. I could always show up, but he did more for me than I'll ever do for him. And he was the original hookup. And again, I carried the bags, and my first couple nights there, now I'm calling home. All the guys, I'm on. I remember going to one of those old school, you've seen the UK telephone booths.
Yeah.
It's raining out, the hotels, but I wanted some privacy because I didn't want everyone to think I was marking out or whatever.
Right.
So I called Scott Ashworth, and I'm like, dude, it's so cool. I'm like, you get to work every night of the week. This is shaving the learning curve off so much. You're in a band, you do anything every weekend. It's like, we messed up. Well, next weekend we can do this. But when you do it every night, boom, 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 you start to get razor sharp. Right. So I called Scott Ashworth, and he's like, kid, carrying the bags for you. I think they're ribbing you there, but I'm glad it's working out for you. Thanks for calling me. I went to his wedding. He's a great guy.
Nice.
He's a great. Talk about another guy that takes a lot and moves forward. There's another one.
Does a lot for his community too, and the kids. Isn't he like works at a school?
Yeah, he's an athletic director, I believe now.
That's great.
Circle back to the original question.
Yes.
Please.
The UK tours.
The UK
and how you get on the UK tours.
Okay, yeah. So the first one, so Yoko, he needed someone to carry his bags by then. His health. Oh yeah. His health was failing a little bit, and it shouldn't have been his cousin either.
Right.
First of all, that tour doesn't exist if those two aren't on it.
True.
So I was one of the only Americans I was the only American that there were two students of Yoko's, but they seemed to always be aggravating either Sam, Tonga Kid, or Yoko. And for the second tour, it was just me. Yeah, Yoko and I had stayed in touch by phone, using a calling card to call Las Vegas at the time.
Wow.
And he made sure that if he was on a tour, I was going too, because he knew that I was not only going to carry his bags, but besides the $40,000 a month that he told me he was pulling down, so it was probably more, not less.
Right.
Back in, maybe it's this way today, but you'd make your money like you'd have 8x10s, you'd have merchandise, Polaroids.
Yep.
He could never run out of film, and he could never run out of those 8x10s. Well, when we were in these towns, you have a couple hours before the bus leaves the hotel.
Yep.
I'd get a workout in, and then I'd get on the phone and I'd find out whatever the UK version of Staples is or Rockers is. And I made sure he never ran out of Sharpies. Awesome. All that stuff he needed to make money, I made sure he had. And in turn, I didn't have to pay for a thing.
Right.
And the only thing, I'm glad and I'm not glad I wasn't on the tour where he passed away. I lost my grandfather about a week prior. And I mean, it was 20 years ago now.
Right.
But I wasn't in any shape to go over there again. And that ended up being the last one. And all you need to know about those tours is when he died, they died too. Right. For a while. I think you can find a week's worth of work over there now, maybe 2 weeks. I don't know. I'm not in the business.
Right.
But I don't think there's month-long tours. And I don't think there's 2,000 or 3,000 people more than that in some of these venues.
Right.
It was just electricity, just being around the guy. It was a really fun time in my life.
Excellent. Before we go any further, I really want to talk about some guys that have passed away.
Please, please.
We talked a little bit about
Trent. I don't ever want to forget him.
We talked about Trent, but you had told me when we were going back and forth on texts and stuff, Steve Bradley.
Steve Bradley. Super bad.
Super
bad was right.
Incredible talent.
Got to train with him a little bit. Halfway in between, there was a gym out in Westfield. There's so many Kevin Kellys in the business. Help me. Who's the jacked Kevin Kelly that traveled with the power company? Kevin Landry's his real name.
Kevin Landry, yeah.
They had a warehouse with a ring in it.
Right.
So the Power Twins would be out there. Alex Arian would be out there. Steve Bradley had the contract, had a developmental deal, but was home every now and then.
Right.
But when he was home, he'd be at that gym. So I got to train with him a little bit. And really, when I stopped wrestling, I broke my leg twice in a year. After that second time at end of 2003, when I was done, I was done.
Right.
I went to one wrestling show only, and it was whatever the night the Malice in the Palace was. You know what I'm talking about? That basketball fight?
No, I don't remember that.
The Pistons. Yeah,
Detroit.
it was on TV.
Yeah. The Pistons and the Pacers, was it?
Yeah. So I took a ride with Tim McNeely at the wheel, Eddie Edwards, DC Dillinger, Danny Jaxx. Danny was going by Jaxx now, and I didn't even know that. I found that night out then. I was like, "When did you change your name to Jaxx?" He's like, "You mad?" I'm like, "No." I'm like, it
works.
He's like, "Hey, it's half a tribute to you, but it's half because it's a cool name." And I was cool with that, whatever.
Right.
But there was a Steve Bradley show. He was running promotions at the time.
Oh wow.
You know, and he remembered me, put me over. So he was not too cool for school with anybody.
Right.
And you know, fast forward to the end of his life. I'm also home now. I'm only out of the business. Actually, that was 2007, 2008. I just remember waking up to the news. I was working overnights at the time. I lived alone. You can't help but have a cry for something like that. You know, the way he went.
Yeah.
No,
it's definitely sad. I only met him once, and he was dressed as Santa Claus the night that he worked for Sheldon. Yep. I don't know if you remember hearing that about that show, but he attacked Alex Arion or Slick. One or the other. It was a great show. You brought him up real quick. DC Dillinger.
DC Dillinger, yeah.
One of the greatest heels New England Independence has ever seen.
Heat magnet.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Just a natural.
Yep. You didn't have to say a word. You could just stand there, and people want to kill him.
You know, I didn't have the benefit of looking at YouTube in the business or archives or anything like that. But if a young guy wants to learn how to be a heel, you'd be hard pressed to find anybody anywhere that did it better than DC Dillinger.
Right.
You know, and then Dave Cahill, the man.
Right.
Just too soon.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of guys too soon. I mean, I'll throw some names. You probably know them better than me. You know, I pick up. You know, you learn somebody like Z-Bar dies.
Yeah.
I mean, he's my age or younger.
Right.
You learn somebody like Xavier dies.
Yeah.
And it's just
another great
maybe
guy.
I know why, you know, maybe I don't.
Right.
But I can put myself in their position. It's hard. I think it circles back to what we started with. I really admire the guys that are either still doing it,
right,
like Reverend Redemption, or that at some point gracefully stepped aside and realized this can't be my life's calling anymore.
Right.
And I'm going to move forward in life. And and some guys have trouble doing that.
Yeah.
And it can be depressing as hell.
I can imagine. It must be.
Unless you have a reason like a child to raise or something like that
Yeah.
to move forward with. It's tough.
Yeah.
I can't help but think that it wasn't tough for those guys.
Right.
All of them in their own way.
Oh, it has to be. I mean, not for nothing. I'm not a wrestler, but I mean, I played sports as a kid. I stopped playing when I was 15 years old, and I'm 56 today, and I still kick myself in the ass that I stopped playing.
I think that
so I think
that anybody that loves it like you, I can tell by the way you're talking that you loved playing sports.
Oh, I loved it.
I think any athlete dies twice. I think you die when you put that aside.
Right.
A part of you dies, and and then like everyone else, you have an end of your life. And for some guys, that window in between the two is just too short.
Absolutely. Last guy I'm just going to bring up, Nick Steele.
Yeah. That one, and I feel terrible about missing his services, but the reason I missed it was a family reason. And I knew Nick on a personal level.
Right.
I know he'd have no problem at all with, me watching my nephews, the weekend of his services. Hello, Harrison. Hello, Nate. I love those boys. But going back to Nick, he was always there. And my very last match was with Johnny Idol. Opened my career, and Johnny Idol closed it. And Johnny Idol was Nick's tag team partner in my hometown in 2008, 5 years after I'd taken a bump. I didn't even practice in between the two. That's nothing to brag about. It's not that I'm super talented and didn't think I needed to. It's just that I didn't.
Right.
And it still worked out.
You're honest about it.
Yeah, and you know why it worked out all right? Because it was with Johnny Idol and Nick Steele. And the guy I'm tagging with 20 years in the WWE experience, that didn't hurt things either. But, who doesn't miss Nick? I think that was a really beautiful tribute that they have at the Top Rope Academy.
Yeah.
I saw that locker.
Yep.
and very tastefully done. Well done.
I had met him probably like 3 months, 4 months before with Sonny. Sonny brought me to it. It was the first wrestling show I ever went to that I didn't pay. I felt so weird going to a show and not paying, you know? But that I never met him or anything. He couldn't have been nicer to a stranger that night because we went into the bar afterwards for a few drinks and he just, wow. So when he passed, it was beautiful to see everybody saying the same thing. You know, that he was just such a great family guy and loved everybody in the wrestling business.
He really did. You know, I think that's, you know, as someone with, you know, when I go, and I hope it's a long time in the future from now.
I hope so too.
If I can, thank you. If my legacy is that, you know, nobody has anything terrible to say about me, right. You know, and you talked about like some of the guys we just mentioned. Yeah. That's a good, you know,
yeah, absolutely.
That's a life not wasted.
Right. All right. So you held tag belts all over the place.
We were the kiss of death. You know, if you put the straps on Type of Kegger,
your
company was going out of business.
Wow.
Count them down.
Yankee?
Well, South Coast.
Okay.
Yankee, yes.
ACW, Jason Knight's Assault Championship Wrestler. Did you hold gold there?
We did, and
they
kind of tough to do when you don't come up through his dojo.
Okay.
Jason was very proud of his dojo.
Right.
And his students were very proud of being students of his dojo. And they let you know it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes it was difficult the first time around, but I think once we had matches with these guys and they knew that we didn't have egos.
Right.
Our gimmick was we had egos, but there's nothing we wouldn't do to get a match over, to get our opponents over.
Now, did you take on, was the Untouchables a tag team down there back then?
Who would have been in the...
Anthony something. Oh, man.
I remember our 3 title. So the first one, Rocket Fred Curry.
Nice.
And Del Tsunami, I believe, was his partner.
Yeah. I remember him.
There was another, too many.
Then there was another guy, like Abel Graves.
He was there, yeah. He was just cutting his teeth. He wasn't in any... Actually, he was Del Tsunami's tag. That was a match. Maybe it was for the title. Maybe it wasn't. But Fred Curry sticks out. And then the Cowboys from Hell, they stick out. Bulldog Blansky.
Yep. I haven't heard that name in a long time.
Funny guy.
Yeah.
Right? And again, this is how this is how tight ACW was and how tough it was to get in there if you didn't really come up through the dojo and you were a young guy. If you were an older guy and you were Jason's friend, you were all set.
Right.
Bulldog Blansky, allegedly, I don't know if it was money or what he promised the Cowboys from Hell to be stiff with us in the ring, to shoot on us. And I don't say this like they were cowards. They didn't have the heart to do it just because we had a pretty good relationship with them.
Right.
So he says to us, hey, you know, Bulldog wants us to shoot on you in the ring. So, you know, I was like, go ahead. I'll make you look like $1 million.
Right.
And we just made it look like it was a part of the match. And Bulldog was never the wiser. But I don't mind saying something like that now because why not, you know?
Right.
And Bulldog, I don't blame you.
Yeah, I was...
That's part of the business.
You rubbed them the wrong way, I guess.
As long as you're not telling a guy to break my leg.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not asking Iron Sheik to come into Madison Square Garden and humble Hogan, break his leg.
Leo, before we got to know each other, I think you said that I believed you were those cocky jocks.
Yes.
Yeah.
I really did. I swear to God, man. You guys really, to me, you guys were the cocky jocks. I grew up in Lowell.
Yeah.
And I'm not a jock. You know what I mean? I was what you'd call, I guess, the drug kid or whatever. You know what I mean? A druggie, whatever you want to say.
Friends with those guys too.
You know?
Yeah.
But you guys definitely reminded me of it. And your tag team was awesome. You guys really worked well together too.
Thank you. I think sometimes we carried that air of cockiness a little too well. And maybe Bulldog thought that was us. But if you worked in the ring with us, you knew that we weren't selfish at all.
Okay. And you also, did you hold on gold in Donnie B's promotion?
Yeah, Phoenix Championship Wrestling. Another kiss of death. The promotion went out of business with us as their champions.
That's Nova's brother, in case anybody wanted to know, Donnie B.
Yep, Donnie B. Character in his own right. Hey, that was a great... You look at some of those logs of who was on their shows. He had some awesome talent back then.
Right. Oh, yeah.
So
Carino, right?
Yeah, Carino was there. What about the tag team tournament he had in Tom's River? He flew in I think it's the Hanson brothers. They're a West Coast tag team.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
You had the 3-minute warning on their way to Stamford. They stopped there and worked that day.
That's awesome.
RC, I think he was going by RC still. Charlie Haas was tagging with Nova. That was a tag team. I'm probably the back seats were in that tournament.
Nice.
Danny and I was still trying to decide where we were going to live in Philly, but we watched that show and we need to get booked in this company.
Right.
And then we had a program with the Moxie family, and
Okay.
that was Johnny Heartbreaker, I believe. Yeah, Romeo Roselli.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So he was, again, not that far from being signed. A young Robbie E, who's a great
Yeah.
guy. And
Doing really good things right now.
Yeah.
Down in
Yeah.
NXT.
yeah, reinvents himself.
Yeah.
You know, smart guy.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And he's playing that to a T. Like, he's so annoying.
I want to
You know what I mean? He's perfect. He's
I want
doing
to take
great
a minute
job.
and tell you something about Robbie E.
All
Because
right.
he deserves this to be out there, and he's too humble to ever bring it up. But you know, I had a pretty good relationship with him, and somebody from home had their 19-year-old son, one of my high school friends, come home, had a peanut allergy, passed away. So had a younger sister.
Right.
I think she was 9 or 10 years old at the time. It crushed her. And the only thing that really, she liked watching wrestling, and Robbie E was her favorite. So this was before Cameo. This was before
Right.
people had the idea of, getting paid for phone calls. I just emailed him and said, hey, bud, you don't have to do this at all, but it'd be so much good karma for you in the bank if you could reach out to this girl and give her a
Right.
call or something. He called her.
That's
He met her at Agganis Arena when TNA came around town. As far as I know, they still keep in touch. I'm not sure
That's
about
awesome.
that. But for him to do that,
Yeah.
and then that did put some good karma in the bank for him, because look where he is now.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know?
He's got beautiful, I think, twin
The
boys.
twins, yeah.
Blonde hair. They look great.
Yeah, there's some good genes in that
Yeah,
family.
definitely, definitely. I remember when he tag team, when he used to come down and wrestle at Chaotic as the Valedictorians, him
Okay.
and Billy Bax. They
Yep.
were a great tag team. All right, let's. I got a few more things I'd like to bring up. You had some matches with Chris Chetty and Danny Doring.
Yeah.
Want to talk about any of those matches?
We had one match. It was the end of a tag team tournament. Again, so you traveled. We rode with. Let's drop some names in the
All right.
last 5 minutes. All right.
That's perfect.
All right. So Danny and I are living in Philly. We grab a ride with Velvet Sky and Dylan Cage because we're driving down to Smyrna, Delaware.
All right.
We stop at the Smyrna Diner. Velvet's in the best shape to drive. So we say. So she's getting ready to back up, and this is a diner with 2 plate glass windows. And instead of reverse, she hits drive.
no.
So we all went like this, and it just kissed the window. Like the window went.
Really?
Yeah. So Dylan put it in park. They switched seats.
Yeah.
And now we drive out to the venue. That was funny. That was a funny day. So now it was a tag team tournament for the now defunct Delaware Championship.
Okay.
Wrestling. Their problem was they put the tag belts on us. That's the kids of death.
Yeah.
So how about
should
this
have.
tournament? One day we got to work with Joey Matthews and Christian York.
Wow. Hell of a tag team.
Yeah. Hell, great guys.
Were they?
Yeah, really great guys. Awesome tag team.
Yep.
Timing in the business is sometimes can be a bitch. You
Right.
know, they definitely had some unfortunate. They were fire. They didn't.
No doubt.
They were right there with the
I was
back
so
seats.
happy when I saw them in ECW.
Yeah.
I was like, because to me, that was like the first indie guys I saw in magazines that went from indies to bam, all of a sudden there they were.
And they looked
right on your TV.
They looked like they belonged there
Yes.
all along.
Yep.
So there was another team in the mix, but those stick out, and it was a small bar, I think,
Yeah.
but it was Danny Doring can get heat doing anything.
Yes.
And again, how you got to really go out of your way to have a bad match with any of those guys.
Right.
So didn't have a ton of matches with Doring and Chetty, but Doring, very, very nice guy to us. He was, this is before wife and child. Hi, Mia Marie. I really like her. She's pretty
Yeah,
funny.
she's very nice.
Very, very funny, very nice woman. But Dan was still single, and he would put us up a couple times, and more so with Danny because he carried on after I stopped.
Right.
But again, a guy that had no reason to be nice to us other than he wanted to.
Right.
And he
Yep.
did, and he really did.
Another good friend of Sean Wiggins.
Yeah. Yep.
Awesome. All right. How about you worked for XPW the last 8 months in the business?
I did.
And Shane Douglas was the booker.
Yeah.
How did that all come about?
I want to tell the Chris Candido story
That'd be
because
great.
it's going to fit in perfectly.
All right.
ECW Arena, sometimes, the bleachers need to be pushed around.
Yeah.
That floor has like gouges in it. It's terrible. It's hard asphalt.
Right.
You got to push these bleachers with it's like the shopping wheel where every wheel is locked.
Right.
Okay. So they had to be placed around. So it was early in the day. So these things don't move. It's Shane Douglas asking the boys in the locker room for help. Of course,
Of course, yeah.
We ran out there.
Right.
But then we turn around, who wasn't far behind? The Wall, Pat Kenny, Chris Candido, Balls. No, wait, not Balls. Doring, Chetty.
Nice.
So we're all pushing this thing like the sled in football practice, right?
Right.
We had to stop every 20 to catch our breath. Now the noise of these locked wheels going over the asphalt. We finally got everything set up, and we were all winded. And now the vision's starting to come back because it was just like terrible screeching noise.
Right.
And Chris Candido says, "Oh my God, that noise! It's like nails on a blackboard." Oh, no offense, Shane. I didn't want to laugh because I didn't know what I'm dealing with. So,
Right.
But the older guys laughed, and Shane cracked a smile and let you know it was all right to laugh too. But that came off the top of his head.
Right.
So-
and not any of those XPW guys cool?
All of them are
Yeah,
cool.
they were all cool, yeah.
And I think that
White
was
Trash Johnny Webb.
all of
I like that. I like
that was the best. Even the UK guys,
Right.
Johnny Thunder.
Oh, yeah, Johnny Thunder. Yeah.
Everybody. There was a great locker room, and I really felt that was a place where Kappa Tappa Kega could thrive.
Right.
They went out of business in Portland. I'm sorry, not Portland, Pittsburgh. We went out there for a weekend's worth of shows.
Right.
And we had really gained some momentum from local TV. They paid us to be plants in the crowd and chug beers in between the matches.
Oh, cool.
So as I'm about to crack the first one, normally you got to beg them to chant the people at Virgin Slayer.
Right.
I'm like, this is cool. You got to do it, Danny. Do it. Hoochie Player. So they knew. They were
Right.
smart. And there were probably a couple thousand people there. And then in the back, Shane tells us everyone that Rob's assets were frozen by the federal government. For
Yeah, I
his
remember that, yeah.
Other business.
Yep, because they were
And-
sending videos out through the mail.
Yes.
I remember
the feds
that.
are going to listen. If you get the feds angry, they're going to get you.
They're going to come.
It's a return on their investment. Well, they froze his assets. Nobody got paid that night in the Pittsburgh locker room. And I think I'd wrestled about 3 more times in my life, 4 more times, a couple times with TNA, once in cyberspace, and then once at the end with Scotty Too Hottie and
Damn.
Nick and Johnny.
That's awesome.
It was a good time.
Listen, we're going to do this again.
We have to.
We'll get you in the summertime, all right?
Okay?
Thanks for coming on, Andy. I appreciate it.
My pleasure, Leo.
Guys, we're out. Peace.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.